Russia and Iran sign a new military agreement allowing Russian jets to use an Iranian airbase for anti-ISIL missions in Syria.
In an unprecedented move, Russia has begun using an airbase in Iran to conduct bombing missions over Syria. The Russian Defense Ministry says its long-range bombers have carried out airstrikes against Daesh from the west of Iran at the Hamadan airbase. It's thought to be the first time Russian military aircraft have been deployed from Iranian soil in half a century.
Russia's defense ministry said that Moscow has deployed Russian bombers to an Iranian airbase to widen its campaign in Syria. But these bombers have already targeted militant targets in Syria. Well, Russia's defense ministry says that those are Tupolev 22 M3 long-range bombers and Sukhoi 34 fighter bombers, and they were launched from a Hamadan airbase in Iran. Well, according to reports, it's cheaper and quicker to fly them from Hamadan. This could reduce flying time by 60% and also could allow to increase the load on the plane. Before this, Russia was flying these bombers from its base in North Ossetia because its base in Latakia in Syria is not big enough for them. But flying time, the distance to Palmyra from North Ossetia is around 2,000 kilometers, whereas this distance to Palmyra from Hamadan is around 900 kilometers. But certainly Russia and Iran share similar goals in Syria, and they are allies in the region. And both Russia and Iran are part of the same coalition fighting Daesh in Syria.
International news now, where it seems there's increasing cooperation over Syria. It follows Iran allowing Russia to use an airbase, and now China saying it will offer military help to the Syrian government.
Learning that China is seeking closer military ties with Syria, a senior Chinese military official just visited Damascus, where he met with the Syrian defense minister. According to the agency, the Chinese and Syrian officials also talked about the possibility for China to provide military training and humanitarian aid to Syria. This talk about the possibility of China providing military training to Syrian government forces marks a change in China's more detached approach to the war in Syria. China had previously praised Russia's role there, but it may now provide more specific support to the fight against terrorists. The Chinese news agency also reported that while in Damascus, the Chinese military official also met with the Russian general. So you have a potential alliance forming not only with China, but also with Iran.
China and Russia are permanent members of what's called the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Iran wants to become a member. There's about 17 countries in all that either are permanent members, partners, which also include Turkey, Iran, India, Pakistan, and all the countries in Central Asia. It is a large organization. What's intriguing is that Russia is pivoting more toward the east.
This summer marked the 5th anniversary of the Syrian civil war. It began as an isolated protest against the Assad government, but as Chris Mitchell reports, it split the country, and its impact has been felt all the way from the Middle East to the United States.
This drone footage of the Syrian city of Homs reveals the apocalyptic landscapes the Syrian civil war has created. Barely 5 years ago, Homs was once a thriving city, but now, like much of Syria today, it's either a wasteland or a battlefield.
I kind of wanted to take a step back and just really focus on that, on just the extent to which, human beings inside Syria, on all sides, have suffered in the course of this war. Nearly 10 million people made homeless, almost half the population, or pre-war population, of Syria having left their homes, maybe 400,000 people dead. The sheer magnitude of what's happening in Syria, it's something that I think needs to get across.
While the world's media focused on the war at one time, much of their attention has turned elsewhere. Yet the brutal war goes on and on.
I think it's important to remember is that this war, is nowhere close to finishing. We had, of course, the ceasefire coming in this year on February 27th. It held for a while, but it's now, conclusively broken down, and fighting's taking place across the country once again.
The conflict produced a wave of refugees that is changing the face of Europe.
And that's causing enormous strain on European societies who are not necessarily well prepared to receive those newcomers or who don't wish to receive those newcomers.
Hackers have leaked over 2,000 documents linked to billionaire George Soros and his grant-making organization, Open Society Foundation. The papers exposed the group's ongoing attempts to influence political processes in Europe, in Russia, other parts of the world as well.
Screen is a billionaire, a lefty. He's George Soros, and by the way, he is doubling down his bearish bet on stocks across the board. He thinks that stocks are going to go down. Is that right?
Yeah, he's nearly doubling his bearish bet on the S&P 500. He's joining Carl Icahn, Jeffrey Gundlach, and David Tepper, also big mega bears who have moved basically to short the S&P and other stocks as well. So what is he talking about? He's going negative on the global economic picture. It's not just China. He's saying Brexit could still rock the markets. He's worried about deflation. And if rates go up, then you're going to see an unwind in the bond bubble. He's saying a financial crash similar to 2007.
We've got a record number of young adults moving home to live with their parents, even their grandparents. Give me details.
So basically 60.6 million people are living in homes. 1 in 5 people are living in homes with multi-generations, meaning parents and grandparents. That's the young adults living at home. Pew was now saying for the first time in 130 years, people who are between the ages of 18 to 34 are living with their parents. They're not living with their spouses or their partners. They're living with their parents or their grandparents. And that's a big deal for the U.S. economy. They're not out buying homes. They're not out spending things for their homes. You know, so this is a real economic impact story.
Larry Elder, still with us there in California. I say the cure for this, or part of the cure, is rapid economic growth, private enterprise growth. And what say you?
Absolutely. This has been the worst economic recovery since the 40s. Obama will be the first president to preside over recovery where not 1 year has been 3%. And the difference between 2% and 3% is 1 million jobs per year for the time of the recovery. And also, it's about this massive, massive spending. In 1900, government at all 3 levels took less than 10% of the American people's money. Right now, government at all 3 levels takes in the mid-30s. And when you put a value on so-called mandates, things that you're telling people to do and to buy, whether they want to buy them or not, government takes almost 50% of what people produce. That is why our economy is growing so sluggishly.
On Tuesday, 1 year after 3 million gallons of toxic wastewater spilled into 3 states from an abandoned Colorado gold mine, the Navajo Nation sued the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. In a court filing, the Navajo tribe alleged the EPA and other parties recklessly burrowed into the Gold King mine in 2015. The action resulted in the release of waste into water upstream from the tribe's land. A year later, the waterways still remain contaminated. According to the complaint that also names EPA contractor Environmental Restoration, the Kinross Gold Corp. And Sunnyside Gold Corp., the Navajo people have yet to be compensated.
Yellow fever is a disease caused by a virus that can make you guessed it, turn yellow. The virus comes from the bite of a mosquito, and the yellow is because your liver starts to fail and you develop jaundice, a yellowing of the eyes and the skin. You'll also get fevers, chills, back pain, and generalized aching. From infection to illness, typically takes 3 to 6 days. Now, most people are going to improve after these initial symptoms. However, about 15% will develop a more severe form of the disease. There is no treatment or cure for yellow fever. Doctors are going to work to alleviate symptoms, prescribing rest, fluids, medications. The best way to avoid yellow fever is to get vaccinated, especially if traveling to Africa, South America. Use insect repellent, wear thick long-sleeve clothing, and sleep in a screened-in or air-conditioned room as much as possible.
The government said the measles outbreak has taken the lives of 42 people. However, the Naga Civil Society claims the death toll is around 60. The Naga ethnic group blames the government for not doing enough to control this measles outbreak. They added that the government's support has not been timely, nor has it provided enough support. Civil society groups that are willing to help still need to wait for the government to facilitate transportation. Measles remain to be one of the global leading causes of death, especially for young children. The WHO's data shows that the victims of the deadly disease are mostly children under the age of 5.
Health officials in Hawaii have ordered several sushi restaurants closed after they were suspected of being the source of a hepatitis A outbreak. On Monday, officials said the outbreak was likely due to frozen imported scallops served raw at Genki sushi restaurants. And on Tuesday, Hawaii's Department of Health put an embargo on all frozen scallops sold by 2 companies providing the tainted scallops to those restaurants. The Honolulu Star-Advertiser is reporting 168 people were infected, making this Hawaii's worst outbreak in more than 2 decades.
So what should you do if you recently ate at the sushi chain? Alex Serbol got answers. Alex?
Aloha, Joe. If you haven't already, you need to get vaccinated. Call your doctor to make an appointment or get a prescription to take to a pharmacy. Or you can get the vaccine at Urgent Care Hawaii if you're willing to pay for it.
Urgent Care Hawaii, how can I help you?
Now that we know the likely source of the hepatitis A outbreak in Hawaii, more and more people are reaching out to their doctor's office to get the vaccine.
We're administering quite a few, like today, like a third of our patients actually were here to get the hepatitis A vaccine. And I'm anticipating that that'll probably be like that for the next several weeks.
A California man is under arrest accused of setting a devastating wildfire that disrupted the lives of thousands of people. The Clayton fire in Northern California has destroyed more than 175 buildings. Thousands are waiting to learn what happened to their homes.
Investigators accuse 40-year-old Damon Palshiuk of setting the fire on purpose. He may be linked to other wildfires over the past year. The Clayton fire is one of 9 burning across the state.
It is my pleasure to announce the arrest of Damon Anthony Palshiuk, age 40, of Clear Lake, on 17 counts of arson.
People in the Lower Lake community welcomed the news of the arrest after wildfires destroyed more than 170 structures and displaced hundreds of families.
I'm excited that he is now in jail because now it's not going to happen anymore.
There are 17 counts of arson related to numerous fires in Lake County over the past year.
Law enforcement would not say which fires the counts refer to, but last year this same region was burned by 3 other major wildfires: the Rocky Fire, the Jerusalem Fire, and the fatal Valley Fire, which investigators recently concluded was caused by faulty wiring. Meanwhile, the Clayton Fire continues to burn.
This fire and the fires last year are really the new norm. Large fires that grow very quickly and do a lot of destruction.
The rural community of Lower Lake dates back to the 1850s. Now, much of the downtown area has been destroyed.
This is an incredible sight on display. As you see a volcano in Mexico erupting, spewing ash and smoke hundreds of feet into the air.
What will we do without webcams? This happened yesterday at the Popocatépetl volcano in Mexico. So
glad you're
easy
saying
to
that.
say. About 55 miles outside of Mexico City. According to the National Center for Disaster Prevention in Mexico, there have been as many as 73 eruptions from this volcano in recent days.
On August 21st, 2017, the United States will get to witness a total eclipse of the sun, and 12 states in the United States will get to experience the moon's shadow. Astronomers say it will go from Oregon to South California. Scientists are starting to prepare for the spectacle now because it won't happen again until 2024. This time of eclipse is rare, and it is called a solar corona. According to a scientist named Pasikoff, only on days of eclipses can we put together a complete view of the sun.